On the Life Surfing podcast today, deeper insights and implications of the US election.
In Arjuna's case, it was not like that. He was not hating anybody. He was not wanting to fight. But still, Krishna was telling him that you need to take over the responsibility for the country, because otherwise it will go in a very destructive process, in a destructive direction. The values are not there as a basis. If everybody is following just the egocentric approach, what is convenient to them, what is fitting to their prejudices, then there is no chance for a healthy development, and sooner or later it will become self-destructive, and that is how it will develop. In the Indian background, there was very interesting in the mythological, but also it is known as almost historical process. That was the war of Mahabharata. And it was a war between brothers. And the interesting thing is, they were both connected to the godly figure of Lord Krishna, and they both wanted help from him. So first, the brothers who are wanting to take over the power, even though that was not how the normal way of going should be. There are 100 brothers, and the other is the 5 brothers. And so Lord Krishna had to advise or to participate in different ways. So first the 100 brothers, the Duryodhana, the leader from that, the eldest brother from them, were coming. And Krishna said, I will help everybody, but I will not participate in the fighting. I will not fight directly. And he said, I can give you all my army, all the military which I have, but I won't be there with you in the war field to fight for you. All the other possibilities, I will be there just as an advisor, as a presence. So what do you want? You can have all the army and all the power. The army, which at that time considered all these elephants and horses and all these big, powerful things of that period. Then Duryodhana, when he heard about it, he said, no, I will take the army. I will take the military because it's so much power. And then he said, okay, you get all that. And then Arjuna, the other brother who was in the 5 Pandavas, they were coming, but interestingly, Arjuna said, I can let go of the power. I don't need to be the king. I don't have to be fighting with my brothers. Now, this is one of the things which has been very grossly portrayed in different ways and has all the chances of being misunderstood. So, Krishna said to Arjuna, you have to fight. You have to go to the war. And the background of the war is that Duryodhana, from the Kauravas, wanted to gain power for themselves, wanted to become strong, and had vested interests. Although he was not supposed to be the king, according to the elderliness and the father and the whole tradition, he wanted to snatch away the power from Arjuna. And Arjuna told Krishna, I don't need the power. I don't need to be the king. Why should I go and fight with my brothers? Why should I kill them? Krishna told them, it is not a question of fighting with the brothers. It's a principle. It's a more deeper values. It is a question of who is going to be further in power and who is going to give a direction to the whole society, to the whole kingdom. Of course, at that time, it was not a global situation. It was not so destructive. But still, this situation is very, very interesting and very valuable to consider because Krishna was saying to Arjuna, you have to fight. Although Arjuna had no interest in power, because only through fighting the brothers, there is a possibility that the goodness and the values which are orienting to the human development can sustain. It is not easily understandable because, especially because of this statement from Krishna, many people from especially other religious backgrounds and others thought Krishna is a warmongering God. He has been telling a brother to fight with his brother. But there is something more valuable. And what you can see in the American background is a parallel situation in a more bigger stage with more implications for the whole earth. Now, considering how it was developing historically, in the earlier election, that time's president was losing. But he didn't want to give away the power. He was trying in all kind of ways to sustain, to hold to power. With the result that he told many, many lies to the people, and he gained control of part of the media. And it goes with certain unconscious process in human life. To have power, to feel superior, to feel that we are somebody special. And in that kind of approach, violence, hatred, destruction, revengefulness is all supported, allowed. In Arjuna's case, it was not like that. He was not hating anybody. He was not wanting to fight. But still, Krishna was telling him that you need to take over the responsibility for the country, because otherwise it will go in a very destructive process, in a destructive direction. If the values are not there as a basis, if everybody is following just the egocentric approach, what is convenient to them, what is fitting to their prejudices, then there is no chance for a healthy development, and sooner or later it will become self-destructive. And that is how it will develop. Even those people, for example, just to imagine, the people who are following this tendency to have advantage for themselves to come into power. When they get power, then they will try to destroy those who are critical to them. So anybody who is critical, they will be punished, they will be killed, they will be thrown out. And this is a tendency which is going more and more into destructive approach. Just in the case of German history, we can see that when Hitler was in power, first he raised the anger against the Jews, made them as the reason for the suffering and the loss in the First World War, and not the others not gaining everything. It is a way of polarizing and not bringing understanding to help people to rise up, to find healthy ways of existing together. So this approach, first he tried to deport and kill, and he succeeded in killing 6 million Jews. And then, of course, this perfectionistic approach, this approach of power on Sintis and Romas, on the Gypsies, because they were not fitting with the regular concept. And then all the people who are having some kind of retardment in the physical level, the Behinderten, they were all in different ways with euthanasia or a way of removing them out of life. And they were even going further on to start measuring the noses of people to see who is belonging to the perfect Aryan race. Something similar is going on in USA also now. The white supremacy groups, they have vested interest because they think that when the whites are not in power, then the other people will overrun them and destroy everything, and their supremacy and the feeling of being strong and special will be disturbed. So there is fear, there is misunderstanding, there is all kind of calculation. So this is the background, and this is where the challenge is. Is it a question of just fighting and winning? Because now fighting and winning is not anymore the same. It's not just the election where somebody is getting more powerful. It is having global implications. What will happen to the fight between Russians and the Ukrainians? What will happen to the struggle in Palestine between Israel and the Palestinians? And they are all having their interconnected factors. And when the world gets dominated by people who are all after power, and they all have atomic weapons, they all have biological weapons, they all have chemical weapons. And when they go on approaching this way of fighting, so once they are in power and once they have the feeling that they have absolute control of everything, at least in their minds, they are not considering the way of nature, they are not considering the creator, they are not considering what is really deeper in that kind of an approach. Because most of the times when people get into some basic misunderstanding or having certain conditionings where they come into power, where they are feeling superior. For example, the leader from the North Korea, he was just growing up in that background where his family was coming into power and they were wanting to consolidate and control the power. So it became more like only from their family somebody could become the leader. So they choose who is going to be the leader. And anybody who is disturbing them, including his brother, who was found to be not fitting with the power structure, they were killing. They were arranging that he get killed in another country. And they are all accumulating atomic weapons, capacity to destroy. And they are threatening in different ways. And the others who are afraid of this, they are also accumulating power. So everybody is spending so much of their wealth for the defense purpose, for the military purpose. If you look how many billions of euros or dollars are spent on military and destruction, this budget which is used for that for 1 year, if you use all that to help nature, help people in poverty, help people in suffering, to again create a supportive and healthy human balance, then things will go very differently. But for that, somebody has to have the vision. Somebody has to understand it. Somebody has to see that if you go on in an egocentric way, following power, following intimidation, following an approach of hate and revenge, it has no healthy future for anybody. Because all these people who are dictators and who are going in that kind of way, they will start fighting against each other. And once it becomes a fight with atomic weapons, then it is the end. So it is a very delicate process, and the real challenge is, can anybody bring the awareness to all those who are involved, all those who are in the decisive process? And perhaps that is the real background of the election. How many more people are becoming aware? How many people are understanding that hatred is not a way? Revengefulness is not the right way. Prejudicialness is not the right way. You don't have to be superior to anybody. You don't have to take everything in, but you don't have to be hateful and inimical to anybody. For example, in the present American situation, the migrants who are having very difficult situations in their countries, many families running away from the chaos and suffering in their country. They are not all criminals. There will be definitely one part of people who are also having criminal intent and who are trapped in criminal backgrounds. But to brand everybody as criminals and worms and poisonous, that is the branding of a whole great majority of human beings without trying to understand them. So America doesn't have to take everybody in, just like Europe does not have to take everybody of the migrants. But there has to be no hatred. There has to be a certain way to balance, to understand why people are going away from their background. Why? People should try to understand. Because in their own place, they have no chance. And can the world continue when it is just such a strong discrepancy between the rich and the poor? Can the so-called rich control by suppressing and keeping others as human beings of second class? Can the world survive through this kind of fear and suppression? No. Because those who are suppressed, they are also able to fight back in all kind of unexpected ways. They will create also chaos. So it will be very destructive for everybody. It's not the right understanding. It's not even from the logical way of looking at it, not the right strategy. People need to consider what is human, what is healthy, what is intelligent. And that is where the next aspect of what is truly religious. Jesus says God is love. The word Islam means peace. But most of the people who are in power are not considering these aspects. So those who will consider these aspects and bring the awareness and raise the consciousness in the society that hatred is not the way, destruction and revengefulness is not the right basis for common welfare, for a healthier coexistence. And we have very urgent challenges to deal with the climate change, with the disbalance in nature, with the destruction of many species of life, which are disappearing every moment from the planet. And there are so many unsensible things happening because of misunderstanding and egocentric way of going about life. So we are in a very decisive turning point. So the American election is not only about America, it is all interconnected. And now the word global village is more understandable, more easily graspable. And we cannot go about thinking in terms of narrow idea of our country, our nation, our group. Yes, you need to take care of your country, you need to take care of your group, you need to take care of your culture, but taking care of it in an intelligent way, without hating anybody else, allowing others to have a chance, and creating bridges through intelligence. That is where the understanding of life in a deeper sense will come. That is where you consider the Creator. The Creator has created all this diversity and variety. It is not accidental. It is not just some stupid misunderstanding which is behind it. When life has created each of us as unique manifestation, there is nobody like you and me. Is it not so significant? Is it not important that we accept and respect each other as part of the wonder of the creation? Is it not important that we look and bring our attention to that what really is, rather than being trapped in some misunderstanding, some fear, where we try to be superior to somebody, where we just go into fighting and labeling people in negative ways? That is not the right understanding. So an awareness has to happen. A deeper consideration has to happen. And it is not how much education or how much riches you have. It is where your understanding is. Are you considering life in a deeper way? Are you in touch with your heart? Are you in touch with your deeper intelligence? Or are you just being clever? Cleverness is based on an egocentric way of looking what is advantageous to me in a narrow level. Intelligence is based on an approach where you consider and see that I'm not just this personality. I'm not just this narrow me. I'm connected with the life in a deeper way. And feeling a careful consideration for others too. an approach of consideration, an approach of compassion, and becoming aware that the manifestation of life is a manifestation of wonder. It's a manifestation of love. The creation is not just accidental. You look in every detail of the creation, every cell, every manifestation, every plant, every bird, every insect. Look at your body. Feel the body. How much intelligence is in the manifestation of this body? How much intelligence is in the creation of the planets? How much ungraspable care and concern is there in the way this earth has come to be? The earth moving around itself, the earth moving around the sun, all these planets placed in certain positions so that life can become possible here. It's very important that we consider all this. We are not here just to follow certain conditioned, misunderstood ways of pursuing an egocentric reaction. We are here for a short while. Everybody is born and everybody has to die. If we use this time which we have in this body, in this life, to consider and understand life more deeply, we become more human, we become more intelligent, we become more creative, we become aware of the beauty and wonder of the diversity of life. And this is very, very important. This is high time. And this election is representing that. That is why it is a very valuable factor that more and more people who understand are participating in direct or indirect ways to raise consciousness, to raise the insight into the nature of our reality and the nature of our challenges. And life is supporting. Just like in the Mahabharata, although Krishna was not fighting, he was not using his force of his military, but he was helping those with understanding and wisdom to approach in the right way. So it was not a war to destroy and to perpetuate hatred and revengefulness. It was not to create more fear. And of course, in this Mahabharata war, Arjuna was becoming the king as he has to become according to the natural and traditional processes. And because he was not after power, because he was not wanting to win against somebody, because he was ready to let go of his power, he had the compassion in his heart. He had understanding. Therefore, somebody like that coming into the responsible position is valuable. And life supports in many ways. The ways of life, the ways of the divine. One cannot predict, but one can only say, whatever will happen will be happening for the good.